What is up, YouTube? Eric here from MajorLeagueTrading.com, coming at you guys with a trade review breakdown video on my Roku trade from last week here. And this is the trade you guys might have already seen or heard about, where I made a little over $38,000 with just about $1,000 in capital. And it ended up being a Friday, which made it a really nice weekend. And for those of you that already know me, I don't typically like to trade on Fridays. I'm, usually done by like 11 o'clock or so each day. And I try not to do much on Fridays. And it ended up being my son's birthday on top of all that. And I ended up having the trade and stuck with it and managed it out through a good part of the day there. But no complaints here. And I'm going to walk you guys through. My purpose of this video is to show you guys exactly A to Z what it was I was looking for that got me into the trade, how I managed it, when I got out, why I got out, pretty much all that fun stuff. So let's dive in, take a look here. At Roku, I left all of my levels here on the chart, and you guys can see what I'm going to do is actually blow this screen up here, and we're going to take a look at the daily chart. Now, this was the day, 9/20. This was the day where I took the trade. You can see Roku traded 65 million shares on the day. Ended up having a really nice move to the downside there, and something that I predicted was going to be happening there and why I took the positions. So let's start off with the why for this trade. Coming into the day on Friday, this is what I saw here coming into the day prior to the bell on Roku for the daily chart specifically. And the reason I want to start on the daily chart here is because you guys should be doing, if you're not already, you should be doing your analysis and what you're looking for the markets to do on the higher time frames. Things like the weekly charts, the daily, the 4-hour, the 2-hour, even the hourly chart. Those are going to be kind of the main time frames to run your analysis for. For me, it's the weekly, the daily, and then the hourly is where I'm going to be pulling these levels from that you guys can see on the screen, like 121.20s, 118.70s, all of this. So coming into the day on Friday, what I ended up seeing here with Roku, and we'll just test this out, works white. A couple of things. Number one is we had this big red bar from back, earlier here in the month of September. And this was a pretty aggressive move to the downside there. Ended up being a reversal bar. We gapped up, tried to go higher, failed, and sold off all day long. What does that look like? About a 15-point range on the day there from highs. Now, the very next day, gaps down again, tries to rally up a little bit there, you can see, and then ultimately just craters here again to the downside. And then what we do is we kind of, do this little, kind of bear flag type of pattern here where we're just kind of consolidating, going sideways here on the daily chart for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. And then what do? We gap down one more time here, break through what would be the hourly support that's coming in through here right around 145 for this particular stock, which is Roku. We gap down under hourly support there. You can see we try to go higher a little bit here at the open and then just get completely annihilated. Leading into the very next day here, this would have been Thursday, the day before we took our position here. We were looking at a nice 1, 2, 3 pattern to the downside. And for those of you that don't know what a 1, 2, 3 pattern is, it's kind of where you get a nice move, either to the upside or the downside. You kind of get a little bit of a pause day, something like this, right? And then the very next day breaks out again to either the upside or the downside there. So what I was looking for here is, okay, if we can kind of take out these lows in Roku, that's going to be really nice for a move to the downside. Now, fast forward to the very next day, what you'll notice is we actually end up gapping. We gap opening print here 127.39, prior lows here 127. So we almost gap all the way under the prior bar there from Thursday into Friday. Now, I did not pick up this position until later on. I did not get in right at the open. What I ended up doing here, and we'll fast forward, we'll go to a 5-minute chart and kind of zoom in here. What I ended up doing was waiting. And the reason I waited is I wanted to find an entry into this position. So, excuse me. Let's pull up the order window here, and you guys can see the trades that I took there for Roku. So this is going to be from 918 to 923. I just want to show you guys the first trade in Roku for me all year. And the symbol is Roku right there. And what I ended up doing here. All right, so what I ended up doing here in Roku was waiting all the way until 9:56. You can see my first entry here into Roku was buying 50 of the 110 puts here at 9:56 in the morning for 8 cents. So we're going to do a little bit of math here. So we'll take the first trade, which was 50 of the 110 puts for 0.08. This is $400 in capital to make this trade. And I'll pull over the calculator just so you guys can see this. 50 puts times $8 each is going to be $400. Again, excluding commissions and all of that stuff, right? So place the first trade there in Roku at 9:56 in the morning. And if we take a look here, 9:56 is going to be right in this bar. So what I saw is, okay, we came down to 121.20s, which is a support level I had. We tried to rally. And then as we came down under 121.20s, I said, okay, this is a place where I can go ahead and start stepping into this position. That's when I picked up 50 of the 110 puts there for the 8 cents, which we just talked about. Now, fast forward a little bit here. The next position I started taking was right in here at 10:39. This was buying, again, I was trying to buy 50 of the 105 puts here. You guys can see there's a number of orders here that got filled. And again, I tried buying those initially at 5 cents. I got filled on a couple of them here. You can see these are 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, which I think I got filled 1, 2, 7, 11, and 5 more. So I got filled on 16 of them for 5 cents. The other 34 I got filled at 7 cents here, which you guys can see those here, the 7 cents all the way down to here. So ended up getting filled on, what do we say, 16 of the 105 puts here for 0.05. We'll do that math in a second. I ended up getting filled on 34 of the 105 puts here for 0.07. All right, so the math on that here is 16 puts for 5 cents, which would be $5. So 80 bucks on those. And 34 puts here for $7, good for 200, or that cost me $238 in order to make that trade. And again, that's a total of 50 contracts there for Roku on the 105 puts. Now, again, I placed that trade at 10:39 here. So let's take it to the charts and see why at 10:39 I was placing that trade. Well, what you'll notice here is we did, again, we traded down into 118.70s. Here's 10.25, here's 10.30, here's 10.35. So inside of this bar is when I was placing that trade. What I noticed here inside of this bar is, okay, we rallied up, tried to retest 118.70s and could not do it and started to sell again. So I stepped in again to some 105 puts. This is, I added to another position here. I have the 110s. Now I'm adding the 105s on. And so far in doing so, I've used about $750 worth of capital to make this position, to make this trade so far. I've got 50 of the 110 puts. I've got 50 of the 105s here by 10:40 in the morning. Paid $400 for the 110s, and I paid about $320 there for the 105s. Now, take a look again here and see what we ended up doing again. So 11:36 now. So we've been in this position here for about an actually over an hour and 30 minutes here from the initial trade, and I went ahead and added 50 of the 100 puts here. You guys can see this, 50 of the 100 puts for 5 cents. And I did this at 11:36 in the morning on Friday, September 20th. Now, if we bring this over, we do the math. 50 of the 100 puts here for 0.05. That is $250 in capital to make that trade. So let's go ahead and add up our total cost here. I've already got $238 in the queue there. So I add $250 to that, and then add $480 to that one. So $968 was my total capital outlay to make this trade. Now, again, that's not factoring in commissions here. But again, so total risk on the trade, about $968, excluding commissions here, in order to put this trade on. Now, if we take a look, and again, this trade ended up being good for, I want to say it was $38,410, I believe. No, sorry, $38,401 on the day. And I have a screenshot here, which I'll go ahead and put up in the video here as I'm talking right now, and I'm just looking at it on my phone. But the 110 puts ended up netting me $23,200. The 105 puts ended up netting me $10,807. And the 100 puts ended up being good for $4,394 there. And that is good for $38,401 on the day. Now, what I ended up doing here is, you can see at 1250, I went ahead and started closing out a little bit of this position here. And the reason being is, we were trading about $1.80 here on these 110 puts. And all I did with that was locking in those 5 contracts there. That just took my entire risk pretty much off the table. So we were trading for $1.80, which is $180 per contract. I went ahead and took 5 contracts off. That locked in about $900 for me on this trade and made the rest of the position completely, almost risk-free in that sense. It cost me $968 to get into the trade. And I went ahead and took $900 kind of off the table there by taking 5 contracts off. All right, and then as we fast forward a little bit here, you'll see at about 107 is when I really started to scale out of this position. So over the course of about 10 minutes here, I went ahead and went from having 150 contracts on. Well, at 1250, I took 5 off. So I had 145 contracts on total. And between the next 10 minutes there, I went ahead and closed out the entire position. So let's go ahead and take a look at the charts at 107 on the day and see why it is that I was starting to scale out of the position at that moment in time. So we held through this pullback here, and then we forgot to look at when we added the 1136. So at 1136 here, which would have been right through there, went ahead and added more to this position. Now, this position here, the real question is like, okay, we're 3-4 bars down here. We have a support level down below at 113, 111.25. Why are you adding into this position right here at 1136 when you added the 100 puts there for $50? And the reason being here is by this point, I already had good profits in this trade. And what I didn't want to see happen was we just blow through these 113, 111.25 support levels. And I'm not able to add anything else to this trade. All right. Sorry about that, guys. I'm still battling this little bit of a throat thing here. So anyways, added to that position there on these lows here after we'd already sold off. We'd had a really nice move to the downside. And the real answer to that question is I added to this position because by this point in time, I already had some really nice open profits here. And the 5 cent risk, what I saw basically is that the market really hadn't priced in what could happen to this stock. And when I looked down, I already had some 110 puts. I already had some 105 puts. And the only other strike for me to go to was basically the 100s. And they were trading for 5 cents. And I'm like, okay, that's really, really cheap. I'm willing to risk that $250 for me to be able to pick up that position for the 100 puts. And again, the 100 puts ended up netting me about $4,300 on that trade. So for risking the $250, I was rewarded nicely with about $4,300 in profits from that trade. Now, again, let's fast forward here to the exit of this position here, which again started at about 107 and went to about 117 there. You can see as I started getting out of some of the 110s, or sorry, the 110s, the 105s, the 100s, got out some more of the 105s, some more of the 110s, and then the rest of the 100s here. So at 107, which would be just inside this bar here, we started coming down into and close to this 106.23 to 105.50 support level that I had on the day. I knew that the market had, or this market Roku had the potential to pause right in through this zone and maybe not make it all the way down to 101.10s. And if that was going to be the case, then I didn't want to let those profits just evaporate. Because if we would have popped up here, we could have popped all the way back to 111.25s with no problems here. So I went ahead and started to scale out of this position. I just put some orders out there and let the market come to me in order to take me out of this trade. Now, you'll notice here, we start scaling out, 107, 108, and then really right here at, 113 to 117, I really just start dumping the rest of the position. Now, the reason for that here, which is going to be inside of this bar and this bar here on a 5-minute chart. What I'm going to do here now is I'm going to switch the chart over to the S&P futures, and we're going to go back to September 20th on Friday, and I'm going to show you guys these two bars. So 110 and 115 for the S&P futures on September 20th. And I don't even have to really look at the dates for this chart. I can tell you that it's these two bars right here. This was the 110 and the 115 bar. The 110 and 115 bar right here in the S&P 500. This was a 17.5 minute bar drop to the downside. And this was a 12.5 point range bar here to the downside there in the S&Ps. And what made that even better is that I actually on the day, I can tell you the support level that I had in place here. And for those of you that are in the room, you guys would already know this, but I had a 29.86 quarter support level in place for the S&Ps here. And as we came down this hard bar, you can see I started to, start dumping a little bit more here. 113, I just went ahead and started dumping a bunch of positions there. 115, 116, 117. Again, all through these two bars right here. And the reason being is that the S&Ps had traded a really, really big drop there from basically 30.10s up here down to 29.86s, all in the matter of 10 minutes. And at that moment in time, we traded my support level of 29.86 quarters, and Roku was right down into the 105.50 to 106.23 levels that I was looking for, and I had good profits on the day. And it wasn't worth me risking a potential rally from that to try and get down to these 101.10s, which ultimately didn't end up happening. We did get one more kind of little new low here, about 15 minutes later there. But for me on the day, getting the nice swift move to the downside, really, only a few pullbacks inside of this move to kind of hold through. And then the market telling me, hey, this is where you should probably go ahead and get out. So that was all of the more reason that I needed in order to take this position out. Go ahead and lock in, a little over $38,000 in profits there on the day. And again, the number here, while it's a big number, and while yes, I only used $1,000 in capital, and it was good for a 38 times my money return there on the day. All of that stuff is really, really good. But the big takeaway I want you guys to have from this video is just the strategy that I use, which is level to level, the pro gap that I was using there from the morning open, and then just how I managed the position and ultimately had a reason to get out of the trade. So again, I could go a lot more in depth here, and I got a bunch of other videos you guys can watch and when learning more about what it is that I do and how I trade with level to level and the divergence and all that fun stuff. But this video is going to come up on about 20 minutes here. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks for bearing with me through this little throat thing I've been dealing with here. And I really appreciate you guys coming on, watching, and listening to my video here. Go ahead and click the subscribe button. Give me a thumbs up on this video if you enjoyed it. And if you guys want to join me in the MLT Discord, which is actually where I called this trade out at, to all the members in there, there's going to be a link in the description below to help you guys with all the details for that. So thank you guys so much again for watching. Be sure to click that subscribe button. Give me a thumbs up. Click the links in the description below, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Take care.